You think you know what makes relationships happy. Date nights, communication, effort, keeping the spark alive. And you try. You really do. You plan things. You initiate conversations. You work on it. But here's what nobody tells you. The things you think create happiness in relationships are the same things making you exhausted. Because you're not building happiness, you're performing it, and performance doesn't last. It just burns you out. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt genuinely happy in your relationship? Not excited. Not satisfied that you checked all the boxes. Actually happy. The kind of happy where you're not trying, where you're not managing, where you're just there. Or are you mostly managing it? If you can't remember, this is why. Because happiness in relationships isn't something you create through effort. It's something you practice through ease. And most people are practicing the wrong things. Happiness in relationships isn't about constant stimulation. It's about nervous system safety. When you stop performing, stop fixing, stop scanning for what might go wrong, your body relaxes. And a relaxed nervous system feels like happiness, not fireworks, not butterflies, just ease. Here's what happiness in a relationship is not. It's not constant excitement. It's not never feeling disappointed. It's not your partner always knowing what you need. Those things feel good, but they're not sustainable. And when you build your happiness on unsustainable things, you end up exhausted, trying to keep the spark alive, trying to avoid conflict, trying to be the perfect partner. That's not happiness. That's maintenance, and maintenance feels like work. Real happiness in relationships, it's simpler than you think. But it requires you to stop doing the things you think are helping. The first habit is this: stop trying to be interesting. Most people try to stay interesting to their partner. You plan dates, you initiate conversations, you keep things fresh. And that's exhausting, because interesting is performance, and performance isn't happiness. Here's what actually makes you happier. Being boring together, on purpose. Sitting in silence without needing to fill it. Doing nothing and not feeling guilty about it. Letting routine feel safe instead of stale. Happiness isn't found in excitement. It's found in comfort, and comfort means you stop performing. You're on the couch, he's on his phone, you're reading, no conversation, no activity, just presence. And you don't feel the need to make it more. That's happiness. Not because it's exciting, because it's easy. You're not trying to impress each other. You're not managing the mood. You're just existing in the same space. And that feels lighter than any date you had to plan. The second habit, notice what's good instead of fixing what's not. Here's a habit most people have. Scanning for problems. What did he not say? What did she not do? What could be better? You're not trying to be negative. You're trying to improve the relationship. But here's what that does. It trains your brain to see what's missing, not what's there. And you can't be happy when you're constantly measuring gaps. So here's the shift. Notice one thing that's already good. Every day. Not something big, something small. He made coffee. She texted to check in. They remembered something you said last week. That's it. You're not pretending problems don't exist. You're training your brain to see what's working. And when your brain sees what's working, you feel happier in what you have, instead of stressed about what you don't. This isn't toxic positivity. This is redirecting attention. Because your brain will always find what it's looking for. And if you're looking for what's wrong, you'll find it. If you're looking for what's right, you'll find that too. And finding what's right feels better. The third habit, stop outsourcing your mood to your partner. Here's the pattern. He's in a bad mood. So you feel anxious. She's distant. So you feel rejected. They're stressed. So you feel responsible. You've made your emotional state dependent on theirs. And that's exhausting. Because you can't control their mood. But you keep trying, asking if they're okay, trying to fix it, walking on eggshells so you don't make it worse. And meanwhile, you're not happy. Not because the relationship is bad, because you've tied your happiness to something outside your control. When you outsource your mood long enough, the relationship becomes a full-time, emotional monitoring job. You stop being a partner. You become a regulator. And that role is impossible to sustain without resentment. So here's the shift. Your mood is yours, not because you're selfish, Because you can't be happy in a relationship when your emotional state requires them to be perfect. They get to have bad days, and you get to stay okay anyway. That's not distance. That's boundaries. And boundaries make you happier. You're sitting across from each other at dinner. They're quiet, distant, and instead of spiraling, what did I do? Are they mad? Should I fix this? You just let them be quiet. You stay in your own emotional state. You finish your meal, you don't take it personally, and later when they're ready, they talk, or they don't. Either way, you were okay. That's the shift. The fourth habit. Do less, not more. Most relationship advice tells you, do more, plan more dates, communicate more, show more appreciation. And you try. You really do. But here's what happens. The more you do, the more exhausted you feel. And exhaustion doesn't create happiness. It creates resentment. So here's the shift. Do less. Not because you care less, because happiness isn't built through effort. It's built through ease. Stop planning elaborate dates. Start enjoying simple ones. Stop forcing deep conversations. Start appreciating light ones. Stop trying to prove your love. Start trusting it's already known. Happiness in relationships doesn't come from doing more. It comes from needing less to feel okay. You're planning a date, trying to make it special, trying to impress them, trying to create a moment, and it feels like work. Here's the shift. Want to just grab pizza and walk around? No plan, no pressure, just presence. And it feels lighter. That's happiness, not because it's impressive, because it's easy. You're not performing effort, you're just being together. And being together without needing it to be special, that's when it actually feels good. You know, you're happier when you laugh more than you analyze. The fifth habit, protect your peace more than your partnership. Here's the mistake most people make. They protect the relationship at their own expense. You don't bring up what bothers you. You don't say no when you want to. You don't prioritize your needs because you're afraid of conflict, afraid of seeming difficult, afraid they'll leave. And you tell yourself you're being mature. But here's what's actually happening. You're shrinking, and you can't be happy while making yourself smaller. So here's the shift. Protect your peace, not in a selfish way, in a sustainable way. Say no when you need to. Speak up when something bothers you. Take space when you're overwhelmed, not because the relationship doesn't matter, because you matter. And relationships where you have to disappear to keep the peace. Those don't make you happy, they make you tired. Real happiness comes when you can be yourself without apologizing for it. So here's what actually makes you happier in a relationship. Not excitement, not effort, not constantly improving. Comfort. Noticing what's good, keeping your mood separate, doing less, protecting your peace. Those aren't Instagram-worthy habits. They're not impressive, but they're sustainable. And sustainable is what makes you happy, long-term. The happiest relationships aren't intense. They're regulated. Because happiness isn't found in finding the perfect person or being the perfect partner. It's found in the practice of being okay with ordinary, with routine, with silence, with not needing every day to be special. Happiness isn't something you stumble into when everything is perfect. It's something you practice when nothing dramatic is happening.